effective immediately, I am banning Mr. Sterling for life from any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA. Mr. Sterling may not attend any NBA games or practices. He may not be present at any Clippers facility, and he may not participate in any business or player personnel decisions involving the team.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, relatively new to the job, made that remarkable announcement today that he was banning LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling for life after the league had confirmed that it was, in fact, him on tapes that had been made public, in which Sterling makes a slew of racist comments to his then-girlfriend. We have word tonight the Clippers will be holding a pregame news conference in this hour, during which they will address today's news for the first time as a team. We will bring it to you live when that happens. And coming up in a moment, we are going to talk to Bill Maher about the news. Earlier today, Commissioner Silver made it abundantly clear that Sterling's comments have no place in the NBA.
The views expressed by Mr. Sterling are deeply offensive and harmful. That they came from an NBA owner only heightens the damage and my personal outrage. As for Mr. Sterling's ownership interest in the Clippers, I will urge the Board of Governors to exercise its authority to force a sale of the team, and will do everything in my power to ensure that that happens.
In an era when people with power and wealth seem to face no accountability for their misdeeds, Silver's actions were immediately applauded by the players, particularly the de facto leader of NBA players in this matter, Sacramento Mayor and former NBA All-Star Kevin Johnson.
But these events remind all of us that hatred and bigotry are far from over. I hope that every bigot in this country sees what happened to Mr. Sterling and recognizes that if he can fall, so can you.
Lest there be any doubt that this is now over, Roger Mason, who is the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association, let it be known how far NBA players were willing to go.
Additionally, I reached out to other players around the league and made it clear that the players were ready to boycott the games if this type of action was not something that Adam Silver felt was necessary. We want a timetable from the owners as far as when this vote's going to happen, but we feel confident that with Adam Silver's urging, and obviously we've heard from a lot of the owners around the league, we think this is something that can be handled quickly.
Forcing Donald Sterling to sell his team under the Constitution of the NBA will require the approval of 3/4 of the 30 owners. Commissioner Silver said today he was confident he would get those votes. And if the initial reaction from owners today is representative, Silver will in fact succeed. Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who notably said yesterday that forcing Sterling out of the league could be a slippery slope, today tweeted, "I agree 100% with Commissioner Silver's findings and the actions taken." From the Chicago Bulls owner, we will support Sterling's recommendation to press for Mr. Sterling to relinquish his ownership. From the Golden State Warriors owner, we anticipate the NBA Board of Governors will act promptly to put this chapter behind us. From Charlotte Bobcats chairman Michael Jordan, there can be zero tolerance for racism and hatred in the NBA. There were similar statements of support from the Philadelphia 76ers managing owner, the Boston Celtics managing partners, and the New York Knicks owner, as well as the Indiana Pacers and the Denver Nuggets. And from basketball great Magic Johnson, who is reportedly interested in buying the Clippers, a string of approving tweets, including Commissioner Silver showed great leadership in banning LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling for life. Meanwhile, go to the Clippers website and you see this. We are one. Go to the Miami Heat's website. You will see this. We are one. It was a unity statement repeated on numerous team websites today. The Phoenix Suns, the Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks. Reaction from the world of politics appeared to be bipartisan approval, with Congressman John Lewis telling NBC News it was the right thing to do, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, during a routine daily press conference, being informed of the commissioner's decision in real time.
To ban him for life, the harshest possible penalty. Ban him for life from the games, a $2.5 million fine, and Silver is urging him to sell the team.
Sounds pretty good to me.
All this in anticipation of that pregame news conference, the LA Clippers tonight in just a little bit, followed later by what could be the most watched first-round NBA playoff game in history. You are looking at a live shot of the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, where that game will be played. There will be players, there will be fans, but there will be no Donald Sterling, who has been banned from attending the games of the team that, for the time being, he still owns. One has to imagine that Commissioner Silver recognized that an insufficiently forceful response might have precipitated the kind of dramatic action by players at tonight's game the league would have had a hard time ever recovering from. And from the LA Clippers today, this statement: we wholeheartedly support and embrace the decision by the NBA and Commissioner Adam Silver today. Now the healing process begins. Joining me now is Bill Maher, host of Real Time on HBO. All right, Bill, I'm really curious to hear your reaction to the announcement by the commissioner of the league today that Donald Sterling is banned for life after they verified the voice on the tape saying those things was in fact him.
Well, it's very hard to talk about this guy on MSNBC because I can't say can I? Is that a word? Okay, so I'll call him an ass. You know, I think it's a great thing that all of America agrees and can gather around that fact, because I've lived through a number of racial comment controversies, and it wasn't always that way. So, you know, I mean, it's their league; they can do what they want. People still have the right to be an ass, you know, and it is creepy that you get recorded in your own home. But, you know, he's a strange kind of racist, I'll say that. And I think it's really all about the girl, like, showing up with black men. It's still that black men are taking our women thing. That's what's at the bottom of this.
There is a deeply, deeply creepy subtext, I agree, on the tape. That is, there are so many layers of awfulness that are being captured in that interaction. It's hard to tease them apart. But I'm not sure I agree with you that we were, well, there is unanimity, I think, in condemnation of him, yes, although you are starting to see a few people here and there take his side and sort of focus on the fact that he was taped and maybe he was set up, etc. I'm curious whether you think you're going to see more of that as people kind of rush to fill the vacuum of defending Sterling.
I don't know who these people are. Maybe you read right-wing blogs. I don't. I mean, of course, Rush Limbaugh will always take whatever racial thing happens in America and within a nanosecond find a way to say something worse. That's a given. But, you know, the creepy part is that, yeah, when you get taped in your own house and then that goes out to the world, again, no one here is defending Don Sterling, but that's what's creepy to me, is that we can't even speak in our own house anymore. I don't even know how that tape gets out there. I don't know why that's legal. But I'm much more concerned about things like that than I am the NSA, which I'm concerned about too.
Yeah, the part of the taping, the fact that this was taped privately, we think, without his knowledge, it strikes me that if you had this situation with someone who didn't have the record that Donald Sterling had, the record of lawsuits alleging racial discrimination, not just personally towards people in his organization, but housing discrimination, the fact that people kind of knew this guy had really scummy views, that you wouldn't get the same level of punishment that you're seeing now, which to me seems like a lot of it's the totality of the Donald Sterling experience, lo these many decades.
Right. Well, you bring up a good point. People knew about this guy. I mean, I'm sure his players must have known, at least some of them must have known, that he had been sued. You know, he had many instances before this that showed his true colors, and they still kept taking the checks. The NAACP was going to give him an award up until yesterday. So, you know, that's a little disturbing in its own right.
I think that you have talked a lot about the way that we have these kind of moments of collective outrage around things people say, and you've pushed back on that. You had a monologue sort of about liberals and their sort of obsession with political correctness. I want to just play a little bit of it for you. Take a listen.
As a comedian, I don't like it when political correctness Nazis hound me to censor every joke and apologize for every slight. And when I have to learn how to pronounce words like chai and quinoa. So I get it. Liberals can be obnoxious. And that's why lots of Americans say we don't want politicians nagging about what we can name our football team or how big our soda can be or what we can eat or who we've offended. We have wives for that.
Do you think this is one of those situations, or is this one of those situations that's so sort of far over the line that it doesn't strike you as some kind of liberal PC lynch mob?
Well, let me just first say that, you know, you took a 3.5-minute editorial I did, most of which was not about the subject you showed, and when you show it out of context, it doesn't really make any sense. The point we were making there, it started asking, how do Republicans win elections? How do they do it? When they don't represent the people, there's more of us than they are of them. They're so much crazier than they used to be. Then I went into, how do they do it? One, cheating, and I went to all the ways they cheat. Obviously, the voter fraud stuff, the gerrymandering, et cetera. And then I went into this other area, which is cultural resentment. The Republicans are brilliant at getting heartlanders, mostly probably, to resent these kind of unimportant things that come up with liberals, but that get them to vote against their own interest. And the real point of the piece was that these kind of people are voting against their own interest. They're cutting off their nose to spite their face. And if you look at one of the biggest Republican voting blocs, it's poorly educated white people, people who need a minimum wage hike, and they need health care, and they need environmental regulations, and they vote against it because, you know, Obamacare has Obama's name right in it, and that's what's really disturbing them. And so it was a much bigger point we were making, but I don't shy away from the fact that liberals are sometimes obnoxious.
Yeah, I think that there's something to this kind of mode of scolding, or the fact that we have now, particularly with social media, that these kind of outrage brush fires happen more routinely, it seems to me. And there are times when even I, who's someone who kind of, I don't know, makes my living kind of chronicling these outrage brush fires, wonders if we do end up, you know, it is striking to me that Donald Sterling's lawsuit payout on housing discrimination is going to get about 1/1000th of the coverage that we're going to give to this taped conversation.
Absolutely. It's something else that sucks up all the oxygen. I mean, this is a completely different issue, but it is an important issue, too. ESPN seems to have found their Malaysian plane, you know, and every minute we're talking about Don Sterling, we are not talking about lots of things that are much more important. I mean, if we were really covering what's important, the headline, there would be a banner headline in the newspaper every day, on every blog, that basically says the planet is dying, the ice caps are melting, we must do something very, very soon, or we're all going to die. Maybe not in this generation, but, you know, if you have little kids, and I know you do, I would be terrified at what the world's going to look like in 50 years. That's really what should be important, not Donald Sterling, but, you know, we're human beings, and this is America, and that's just not going to happen.
But why is it that what people say, what is it about someone saying something like what Donald Sterling said or what Cliven Bundy said that just grips our imagination? I mean, you're a comedian, and you do an incredible job of kind of making hay out of that. I'm here every night, and I know the fact that if I walk in on a Tuesday and it's like we've got this crazy Cliven Bundy tape, there's something about that that captures people's imagination or clarifies things in a way that, oh, this federal lawsuit settlement happened today and I'm going to sit here and read it to you, doesn't.
Well, part of it is, especially with the racial stuff, it's an opportunity for self-congratulation.
That's right.
You know, it's an opportunity for people to, I'm one of the good people because I say this guy has got to go. Well, yeah, we all agree this guy is a bad guy, but there are not that many opportunities anymore for a lot of people to contribute to society. So they feel like one way they can contribute to society is by making bad people go away. You're a bad person, Don Imus. You must go. Well, Don Imus was never really a bad person. He said one rotten joke that had a racial overtone. I'm sure he wishes he could take it back. You know, Paula Deen, actually worse, because she really was a racist who was doing bad things. And that, see, that's where it's important, when it crosses over from just an opinion. And again, you do have the right to be an ass in this country. I don't think we could take that away from you. To actual things that people do that are actionable. Yep. What Paula Deen was doing, running a restaurant and discriminating against people, that's actually concrete, it's actionable, and it's in a whole different category in my view.
I think the point about self-congratulation, particularly as they pertain to these moments of racial controversy, is so on the money, because the easiest thing in the world to do is to get up and say Cliven Bundy is wrong about slavery. Donald Sterling has horrible, contemptible views about African-American people, and it's kind of, you're right that it allows you to kind of put some badge on your chest or wear some kind of pin on your lapel that puts you in some category that isn't them.
Right.
And it makes it seem like the real racist is this tiny group of old cranks who no one ever actually deals with in real life.
No, I tweeted this yesterday. I said Donald Sterling is 81. You know what's going to take care of this kind of racism? The flu. You know, because it kills old people, the flu.
Bill Maher explaining his jokes. He doesn't often do that on HBO's Real Time. You can catch his fantastic stand-up show on May 3rd at Penn State and at Foxwoods in Connecticut. Bill, it is always a pleasure. I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.